Welcome back to the shop, guys. This is part 3 of my top end rebuild. In this video I'll be putting the cylinder with that YZ250 Racer Elite piston onto the bike, starting her up, doing some heat cycles, and then I'm going to check the power valve. I'm going to leave this cover off here and rev the bike up, make sure that power valve is opening up all the way so I get all my power. I did go ahead and pick up some more Loctite, by the way. So let me go ahead and pull this stuff off the bike. I just have it resting on there and get the rag out from on top of the motor here, and we'll get started. Okay, got all that off there. I cleaned that up in the first video, if you've seen that, so that's all clean and ready to go. So I guess I'll start by getting the piston on. The YZ250 Racer Elite piston. If you haven't seen part 1 and part 2 of this rebuild of mine, I will try to put the links to the videos in the description, or you can just go back through my videos on my YouTube page and you can find them there. Alright, let me go ahead and get the first circ clip in here. I guess I'll go ahead and get the one on this side here. I've showed this before in other videos. How I like to get the circ clips in is I first put one in while the piston's off the bike. I just I put the wrist pin in there to kind of keep the pin or the circ clip from getting pushed all the way through, and hold it with my finger on the other side here. I take one of the open ends of the circ clip and I put it where that groove is. That groove right there, I slide it right into that, and then I use my thumb on the back end and I press it this way, and then I'll take a flathead and just slide it on in. There it is. And then what I like to do is I like to take the open end, if I can slide it, and slide it to that groove. Sometimes you can get them slide, sometimes they're stuck. This one's stuck, so it's just staying right there, I guess. Oh wait, hold on. Yeah, so I'm just going to leave it right there. It's pretty much lined up in the groove, a little bit of it sticking out. But let me give it one more shot. Yeah, I'll just leave it right there. Now, in the old days, I'm sure you heard me mention this before, people used to say you always had to have the open end of the circ clip either on the top or the bottom, so when the pistons move up and down, it was less likely of a chance that it would pop out of its groove. But that was in the old days when the circ clips really weren't that strong. That used to be a big issue on like the old RM125s with the stock piston, but nowadays they give us really robust circ clips. I mean, these things really snap into place. You can put them any position you want, they are not going to come out, as long as you got them in there right. Alright. We have this brand new wrist pin bearing here. Alright, let's go put this stuff on the bike. Oh, actually I tried it one more time. I was able to get the wrist pin where the open end is pretty much in that groove right there. I like to do that so that every part of the wrist pin that is up in the groove, and the open part is where the open part is right here, because since it doesn't matter which way we put this wrist pin anyways, you might as well make sure every bit of it is in a groove and locked in. So there she is. Alright, let's go get her on this motor. This is a brand new bearing, so I'll just go ahead and put a little bit of Slim and Lube on it. Don't have to go crazy with it, just a little bit. Go ahead and put the rag back down here in case that circ clip ends up flinging off. Hopefully it doesn't. Alright. And I do it the same way. I just find that little cutout in the piston, hold it in there with my thumb, oh, it popped out on the other side on me. There she is. Let me see if I can slide that over like I did on the other side. There you go. I was able to get that to slide over. Sorry, I had to shut the camera off there so I can get both hands in here a little bit better to do that. It can be tricky to move these circlips around in these YZ250 pistons once they're in there, because these things do come with very robust circlips. I think I'm going to go ahead and unbolt the ignition coil. It does give you a little more room when you're putting the cylinder on, and because this YZ250 race piston has a longer skirt, and I'm just going to go ahead and remove the coil to make it a little bit easier to get that cylinder on. Put these back in there. Then a brand new OEM cylinder base gasket. I always like to use the same type of base gasket since I set my head squish band clearance right at 40 thousandths, so always using the same type of base gasket will ensure I always end up with the same squish band for the most part. Alright, let me go to the other side here and slide this cylinder on. Find the pin for the ring locating pin here. Rotate the bottom dead center. Get this Kickstarter out of my way. There she is. Now let me go ahead and bolt her down. Okay, I got them two on there. Not fully tight yet. I want to get the other ones on there, then I'll tighten them all down. Now, obviously they have torque specs for these. I'm not going to break out a torque wrench and the adapters and stuff. I just go by feel. You want to put these pretty snug, pretty tight. You don't want to over torque them, and but you definitely want them pretty snug. There we go. Alright, and I'll go do the other side now. Alright, there she is. I mean, within reason, if you get them as tight as you can get them with a normal wrench, within reason, unless like you're some really strong guy, just put them about as tight as you can get them with a normal wrench without really like breaking your hand, and that should be good enough. They're not easy to strip out. You don't have to worry about that. Yeah, just put them pretty tight. Ah, look how pretty she is with that brand new piston and cylinder. All right. One thing, remember in the last video I showed you how the top of this piston, the dome area, it's a little bit wider than the standard YZ250 or the OEM piston. You can actually see that once you can, if you're real familiar with this bike, you can see it. There's a little bit less. There's a little bit of less wiggle up top here. Definitely a little bit fatter on the top end. Yeah, guess I'll go ahead and get the carburetor on there. There we go. And now I'll go ahead and, before I forget, let me go ahead and put these swing arm bolts back in, the bottom ones. Did I say swing arm? I'm sorry, meant subframe. Got them on there. What is next? Let's see here. You know what? I think I'm going to... Well, first off, actually, let me go ahead and put the coil back in. and put these radiators, the bottom half of these radiators, back together. Out of curiosity, I'm just going to go ahead and check the squish band clearance. You know, I'm using a different piston, so it doesn't hurt, even though I did kind of compare the domes on the bench just by sticking the wrist pin in between the two on the last video. Doesn't hurt to check. I'll set a piece of solder right here across the piston. Make sure she's on the ups. There we go. All right. Go ahead and place the head on with no gaskets or anything. We don't need it to seal. We're just looking to check the squish band clearance. If you go back to my videos and you watch the head modification video, you'll see how I kind of geeked out on all this and actually modified my own head. That's a head right here, actually. There's one of them that I did. It's not the one I did in that video, but I just did a copy just like it. All you need is 2 bolts holding it down, or 2 nuts holding it down, the ones on the opposite side where the solder is that I placed on there. I'm using solder right now that measures about 90,000th of an inch, but I know I have a 40,000 inch squish band clearance. But let's see. Let's see. I'm going to move the kickstart. I'm going to kick it down and squish it down and see what it measures. Be interesting to see. I expect about 40 thousandths unless the piston's doing something different. Obviously the lower rod bearing, she's a little bit older now. That can affect the squish band clearance just I mean, probably unmeasurable amount, but let's see. Alright, there's the solder. Let me go get some calipers. Okay, right at the very end of it, the very corner, it's at about 40 thousandths. Slide it up a little bit. 44. A little more. 47, 46. And then all the way almost at the dome. About 50. 50.5. Yeah, about 50. There we are. So that's where I originally had it set at, from 40 to about 50. Let me show you what I'm talking about here. I have it set at 40 thousandths right here at the very edge, and as it creeps in towards the center of the head, towards the edge of the squish band right here, it moves up to about 50 thousandths. The reason being, that's what you call a taper in the squish band, and you want that because as the charge is getting crammed into the middle, there's less space for all this charge. Out here it's real wide. It's all getting crammed into the same tighter and tighter spots. It gets pushed into the middle. So you want a little more of a gap for that charge to get in there freely without it actually slowing down the piston too much when it's coming up. So that's why you have that taper. But yeah, so I got it set at 40 thousandths with the taper to reach about 50 thousandths right here before the dome. So that's where we're at. She's looking good. Well, might as well finish putting the head on now. That one fit perfectly. Sometimes you got to stretch them out to get them to fit in the groove. Let's see if this one fits good. You're not one of them that are too big, are you? I can't stand that. Because now I got to sit here and work you in. Sometimes they're too big. Sometimes they're too small. What gives? And this is an OEM gasket too. I'll tell you what I'll do. I can see it's lipped out right there. Sometimes if you can put them on here. There he goes. It popped right in. Sometimes just a little bit of pressure. Oh wait, no it didn't. Let me see if I can slide that in. I'm going to use the dull side of a razor here. If I can just slide it right up in there. Huh? Oh no, she actually went all the way through. Alright, let me pull it back off, see what we got going on. Alright, I'm going to leave the part that's sticking up right here. Again, this is an OEM gasket. It happens. and then it pops out right here. Oh boy. There we go. That's it. I mean, if it ends up leaking, I'll pull it off, but I bet it's going to be okay. Some people like to replace these washers every time. I find that I can reuse them a lot of times, and they seal perfectly fine. So. And if it did end up leaking, it's really not the end of the world. All I have to do is just loosen it up and replace it. Before I go any further, let me tighten them two up. Tighten them up a little bit just to hold that gasket or that O-ring in its groove. There we go. And continue on. Alright, go ahead and torque them down. I don't really use a torque wrench on these. I do on 4-stroke cylinder heads, but on 2-stroke ones that have these O-ring gaskets, it's really the O-rings doing all the sealing. It's not so much, it's not a steel shim gasket, so it's not so much how you torque it down or how much. They just need to be tight. They just need to be tight enough. And I don't go too crazy with it. In the past, I cracked the head by going too tight, so I try not to go too tight. There we go. That's all she needs. I'm going to go ahead and put the plug in. I'm going to start with the old dirty plug that I pulled out when I went to go do the top end, because I got to do heat cycles and stuff, so I might as well go ahead and dirty up the old one, and then before I take it to the track, I'll pop a new plug in it. Because anytime you do heat cycles, you know, it's just you're just running the bike on the stand and kind of blipping the throttle and letting it get hot, and you don't really have the opportunity to really clean it out in gear like you would if you were riding a bike. So they have a tendency to just get all, sometimes they foul on you while you're doing heat cycles, or if you don't change a plug after heat cycles, you go to the track and your first couple laps they foul on you. Alright, let's feel this compression. Let's feel this mighty compression here. Feels good. Alright. Okay, now I guess I'll go ahead and connect that water hose right over here and put the head motor mount in right back here. Alright, I have the motor mount on and the water hose or coolant line hooked up, and I went ahead and filled her up with some Peak antifreeze. And let me hook up the power valve mechanism. I put a dab of Loctite on there, just a tiny drop of red Loctite. I like to make sure this thing stays attached. Oh, you know what? Forgot to put that little washer underneath it. Spacer, whatever the heck this thing is. I don't even know why it's there, but it's there. There we go. Stick a little Phillips or anything skinny right here in this little hole. Kind of keeps it from spinning on you as you're trying to tighten it up. There we go. I'm going to leave that cover off for now, because in a minute here I'm going to put the pipe on. She's pretty much ready to start right now if I put the pipe on it. But I'm going to put the pipe on it in a minute and rev the bike out and wash the power valve open and close. I want to make sure she's fully opening and closing. But what I'm going to do to be certain of that is, first I'm going to look up the exhaust port right here with the light, and I'm going to put my ratchet right on the power valve, and you see I can open and close it with the ratchet. I'm gonna look in the exhaust port, and I'm gonna open it until not only does the guillotine in the middle, the guillotine power valve in the middle fully open, but also the two sub ports on the sides. I want to watch them fully open up, and when they get to their open up point, I'm gonna mark this where how far I had to open for it to reach the fully open up point, because it can open them all the way up, like I'm guessing like that, and then the rest of it's just spring loaded. So, you know, but it's not doing it anymore. It's just kind of stretching a spring. So it's not about hitting the roof right here. That's not when it's fully open. It opens up before it even gets to that roof. You see how I can make it hit the roof here? It opens up before it even hits that roof. It opens up the sub ports all the way. So I just want to make sure that it's lifting it up far enough to get them sub ports open. I'll show you what I mean. Let me go ahead and look in the exhaust port here and find that spot, and I'll show you from out here what I was talking about. Okay, I got it all marked up. So if you see when I open the power valve here, you see the black lines when it lines up. Bam, right there. When the two lines line up like that, the power valve is fully open. Not above it, not below it. Above it, it's just stretching a spring out, but there's no more movement of either the center guillotine or the sub ports. But below it, the sub ports start to close, and then right about there, the guillotine starts to close too. So you want to make sure it gets to at least right there where all of them are fully open. What I had to do is I went down here. It's going to be tough to get you in here with a light. Let's see if I can do it here. You see the sub port over there in the far right of the exhaust port? That's the one that I'm watching. And let me see if I can open and close it with the camera on here and show you. You see it open and close there? I want to make sure that there's another one on the left side that they get fully open. And for fully open, the lines have to be marked. So now we'll put the pipe on. Of course, you got to rev it up to do that. So I'm going to put the pipe on, leave that cover off, and I'm going to run her through heat cycles first. I don't want to be revving the piss out of her like that on a brand new piston and cylinder until I run some heat cycles through her and get her broken in a little bit. Then I'll check that. If everything's good, I'll pull the pipe back off, put that cover back on, and the motor part of this job will be done. Whoops, quick change of plan. When I went to go put the pipe on, this Pro Circuit pipe fits so tight against the bike right here. It was hard to even see that mark that I put right up here. So I went ahead and just made another mark down here lower where I definitely can see it. You watch as I open the power valve. You see that black mark right here on this side match up with that one? That's what we're going to be looking for when we rev her out. See, I can see that perfectly clear with the pipe on. So that's how we're going to do this. Okay, I have the pipe on, but it's only held with one pipe spring, since I have to pull it back off anyway after I check the power valve and put that power valve cover back on. So she might rattle around a little bit. Only one pipe spring's holding her on, but it's good. But I did go ahead and get the tank and the seat on. So yeah, let's go ahead and fire her up for the very first time. Here we go, guys. She runs. All right, let me go ahead and run my 3 heat cycles real quick. What I like to do is I I just run them just like you saw me do right there on the stand, and I feel the top of the radiator until I feel like she's fully warm. Shut her down, let her sit for about 10 minutes, 15 minutes or so to get back to a cooler temperature, and then do it again. I do that 3 times. That's 3 heat cycles, and I'll be back after that, and then we're going to rev her up and see where this power valve opens up to. I'll be right back. Okay, I've done my heat cycles. As you see, I got the camera right now pointed where we're going to expect that black line on this rod down there to line up with the black line right here when I rev her. And so let me go ahead and start her up. It's probably going to vibrate like crazy. The pipe's only held on with 1 pipe spring, so this pipe's almost jumping off, but let's see what we got. Okay, it looks like they pretty much matched up. Maybe this was just a hair. Maybe it could have went up a hair, maybe a hair higher to be perfectly matched. But when I go to pull the pipe off to check to put the cover back on, I'm gonna see if that's good enough. I believe it is, because I actually kind of went a little bit aggressive on where I put the mark. So let me pull that off and check that out. Yep, I got the pipe off. It appears that's good enough. Right before I had the marks lined up, just ever so slight before the subports were opened up. When they're completely lined up, then I'm actually stepping into the spring mechanism where they don't open up anymore. So yeah, it was pushing it as far as it can go, so we are good there. I'll go ahead and stick the pipe back on and start up one more time for you guys. Well, actually, I got to put this cover on too. Awesome, guys, she is a runner. Let me fire her up one more time for you guys here. Get the camera set up. Well, there you go. Whew, well, that's it for this job. She's back up and running, and I'll go ahead and break her in this weekend. Not sure what track I'm going to go to yet. I might actually go back out to 74, but that's a high-speed track, so it might be difficult to break this thing in over there, because I'm going to want to get on it hard, so I'm going to have to kind of contain myself a little bit if I go out there and just take it easy, at least for the first moto or two, because not only am I breaking in a new piston, that's not usually a big deal. You do a couple of heat cycles, and then on the first ride, you kind of take it easy for about 10 minutes, come back and check the fluids, and if everything's good, you're good to go. But when you're breaking in a new cylinder, you have fresh hone and everything like that, that's kind of a different story, because now you're breaking in a new piston and a new cylinder, so it takes a little bit more of an easier break-in, so you don't end up, seizing the piston against the cylinder wall or whatever. So, but that's what I have to do. I'm gonna have to go out there and take it easy, I guess. So yeah, I appreciate you guys watching this. I might do a video review on that YZ250 Racer Elite piston after I break her in. Let me see how that goes, but I might do a update video, see if I actually notice the difference. I don't know if I will or not. I know back in the old days when I swapped over to the Racer Elite, the main thing that I noticed was a little bit freer over rev, but that was really about it. And what I mean by over rev is not really making more power up there, just kind of a little bit freer if you had to extend the RPMs all the way to the very, very, very tip. What I mean by freer is you didn't have to like really get full throttle to get to the very tippy RPMs. You could maybe get away with like 3/4 throttle to get to the very tippy RPMs, because it kind of revved out just a little bit freer. But it didn't really make more power, just a little bit freer over revving. But let's see. let's see, maybe that was my impression back then, and maybe I have a different impression today. So stay tuned. I'm gonna probably put together a review on that piston. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this, and I hope you guys enjoy your evening. That old cylinder is out of here. I appreciate all you guys watching this. I know I have maybe about 100 loyal subscribers that watch these videos, and I appreciate every single one of you guys. I'll catch you guys next time.